For this assignment, you'll want to start with a portrait, and the types of portraits that I like the best are ones that are fairly cropped in with a good sized face, and really from the shoulders up I think works best, so that when you're drawing, everything is large enough and is easy to trace and fill in with your brush tool. So I have my empty portrait, and here's where I'm headed. This is another version. Basically what I have here is my background layer. I'm going to start drawing over the portrait, and that's a layer that illustrators call your inks layer. All of your outlines are going to be done with a brush. Sometimes I use a brush that has some texture or transparency. So if we go to the brush tools and we start looking at the options for brushes, sometimes a nice soft brush will work. You could probably use any of these angular brushes, like the Kyle's brushes, like a hard pencil could work really well. So you have a lot of different choices here. The charcoal pencil could work well for this, or the ultimate hard pencil. And so when I'm doing my brushing for my edges, what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by going to the navigator up here in my upper right. If you can't find your navigator, when you go to the window menu, you can check the navigator box and it will come up. So navigating is just a matter of taking this bar and zooming in. You could also zoom out. And the convenience of the navigator here is that you can go over to a certain area by clicking and dragging on the orange box, and you can continue your work. So you can see that I went all around the edge of this image here. It looks like I missed a little space right here. I have a brush that's kind of set as a dark brown color instead of a straight black. It's a little bit softer if you do sort of not a full black, but something a little bit softer. So I chose this sort of sepia or brown color. And I have a brush, the brush that I'm using here is the Kyle's Ultimate Hard Pencil. And my flow is at 38. You will see a difference if you guys change your flow percentage up or down as you go. And I just noticed that I missed this edge here, so I'm going to fill that in. So I have several layers here. You want to make sure that when you're doing your brushing that you actually create new layers. And you can do that by going to this new layer button. That is always going to put a new layer on top of whatever current layer you're working on. So what I have right now is I have my image layer. I renamed my layer inks. If you want to rename your layers, which would make a lot of sense, when you double click on the layer name, you can rename with whatever the layer is going to contain for this particular file. So eventually I'm going to get into highlights, midtones, and shadows. And so I'll just start relabeling those layers as I'm working. When I do my inking, what I like to do is I like to turn off and on with the eyeballs my layers so I can see if I'm getting everything that I need to get. Remember to look back to your layers palette often so that you can remember where the work is happening and that you know you're doing the work in the right place. Otherwise, you'll have to go back and correct that or go back several steps. So ideally what we want for this first half is we want and I'm just zooming out a little bit with Control minus, is we want our picture layer and we want to have it outlined on the most basic edges here. And we want to make sure all of the outlining is being done in a separate layer called your inks. In my next video, we'll talk about doing your flat colors. It's going to look something like this. But for now, you want to start just getting those outlines done, and you want to continually, like every 5 minutes or so, go to the File menu and save your file. So I named this Flats Portrait because I've got both my inks and my flat colors in there.